Hi and welcome to the Allplane podcast, here talking with the movers and shakers that are redefining the future of commercial aviation. And as usual, before I introduce today's guest, let me remind you of all the previous episodes of this podcast that you can find on our website. That's Allplane.tv, Allplane.tv, and there you will find also many other interesting aviation stories. Today we're going back to school, a very unique school actually. Our guest is Keith Mason, who heads the Centre for Air Transport Management at Cranfield University in the UK. Cranfield University is an academic centre of reference for everything that has to do with aviation, both from a technological and from a business perspective. Keith and his team at Cranfield monitor the pulse of the global aviation industry while forming at the same time the new generations of professionals that are going to work in it. Cranfield University is also quite unique in that it offers only graduate programs. So people join from quite a few different backgrounds, all of them in search of a career in aviation. And the school has even its own airfield to test some of the technologies that are being researched there. So how cool is that? It has also a business arm that gets involved in commercial projects that derive from all this research and technological development that is taking place at the university. So there's quite a lot going on there. And I think it's best if we hear it all directly from Keith. So let me welcome him to the podcast. Hi, Keith. How are you?
Hi, Miguel. Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Last time we met, we were at this very interesting aviation conference in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia.
It was a very interesting event, sort of 2,000 people really looking forward to the future of aviation. And it was just a very large and very incredible conference, some really good speakers and some good insights. So, it was an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, an amazing venue. Also, a part of the world that is of much interest for anyone in aviation right now, because there's so much going on in that part of the world.
Yeah, it's very interesting that the KSA has really sort of stepped forward and really tried to sort of move the aviation agenda forward, which I think is a good effort to try and move beyond COVID and move towards sort of growth and development and sustainable development. And I think there was a recognition in the room and in the speakers that the industry really needs to come together to try and focus towards what is a fully sustainable industry. So I thought it was really good, and there was some, if not blueprints, but at least sort of focuses towards where the industry may go. So I thought that was good.
I'm going to post a link to a little roundout piece that I wrote after the conference. But actually, today I wanted to speak with you about some other topics, because you are the head of the Center for Air Transport Management at Cranfield University. And for those in the audience that are not familiar with Cranfield, I must say it's perhaps the number one university in the world, at least in Europe and in the UK, for anything related to aviation. In fact, you are the aviation university.
Well,
we can say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for noticing. Cranfield is a fantastic place, and its relationship to the aviation industry has been there right from the outset. And for those people who don't know Cranfield, it's a postgraduate university, so it's very small, about 4,000 students, and we only have students in master's degrees and in doctoral degrees. The university started after the Second World War. During the Second World War, Cranfield was an RAF base. So we have always had a runway. And during the Second World War, Cranfield became the focus for avionics. And after the Second World War, it became a College of Aeronautics. And after that, an Institute for Technology, and finally a university. So right from the get-go, Cranfield has always been about air transport and aviation.
To set a bit the context, you are located about 50 miles north of London, more or less.
We like to say London is located 50 miles south of Cranfield, but it amounts to the same thing. We're on the arc from Cambridge to Oxford, and we're located just near Milton Keynes, which is a growing new town just north of London.
And near Bedford as well.
That's right.
That would be the closest city, I guess, to where you are.
I think it's a town, but Milton Keynes is closest, and then Bedford. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so basically and then there is this very, as you mentioned, this very unique feature is that you have your own airport. So how cool is that? I mean, a university that manages its own airport, which is very appropriate considering that the sort of topics you specialize in. Yeah. What can you tell us about this? I mean, do you use the runway for experimental and test flights and this sort of stuff?
So the airfield has always been operated independently, and it's a fully licensed aerodrome. But over the last number of years, the university has really tried to integrate the facility within the research activities of the university. So yes, we have various sort of commercial movements at the airfield, and we have a lot of activity because we're fairly close to the Formula One bases. So a lot of the private jets come in to us sort of related to the Formula One activities. And then we do various research activities on the airfield. And one of the things that has just recently been opened is our DARTEC building, which is a digital aviation research and technology center, which is right on the cusp between landside and airside. And we use that building and another building, the Aerospace Integration Research Center, as part of the research activities in the airport. In the university, and the airfield becomes part of the research facilities of these buildings and of these centers. And I can tell you some more about these facilities if you like.
Yeah, that's something that I had here in my notes to ask you about, because I got this impression that in the UK now there's a very conscious effort by the institutions, by government, etc., to be a leader in let's say, in aviation innovation with sustainability as a core theme there. And Cranfield University seems to be really at the center of many of these projects and programs, some of them supported by public money. There's some private funding as well. You're very, very much in the center of all of this. I know Cranfield has also a private, more commercially oriented arm, which I think it's a kind of a spin-off from the university. Cranfield Aerospace Solutions, I think that it's a bit separate from the academic activity, but it's also part of some of these projects and programs.
So you're absolutely right. Cranfield has always been incredibly close to industry. Right at the core, the work that we do is always about trying to provide real solutions to problems in the real world. So if we're not close to industry, we can't do that. And so both those research centers, the AIRC, the Aerospace Integration Research Center, and the DARTEC, Digital Aviation Research and Technology Center, were both funded partly by the university, partly by government, and match funded by industry. So we have partners across those centers, including lots of OEMs, including Boeing and Airbus, including Thales and Avalent and Inmarsat, all of the big OEM technologies providers that are looking to move towards a more sustainable future and a more efficient operational activity for the industry. And it incorporates lots of activities across the university. Particularly, I'm in the School of Aerospace Transport Systems and Manufacturing. So these different themes sort of come together in these centers to try and combine the best of the different research activities of the various faculties, and also the focus of the industrial partners to provide solutions. I'll give you a couple of examples. Mm-hmm. In DARTEC, we have Avalent being involved in advanced radar systems, holographic radar systems that can track every activity around I think, I have to be careful, I think it's 5 miles, maybe 10 miles around the aerodrome. And so part of what we're trying to do in Dartech is to work out how to integrate unmanned aircraft into the airspace system. So you may remember that Gatwick Airport was closed down for a number of days because incursions by drones. Well, now this research activity using holographic radar is there to try and identify and track the movement of drones in an airspace. So that's incredible work. It can identify, obviously, birds as well. Anything that is sort of going to cause any problems about the safe operational activity of an airfield. We have the first beyond visual line of sight corridor from Cranfield to Cambridge for unmanned aircraft. So a drone corridor, if you like, that can be used to do tests about how these aircraft can be integrated into the airspace.
It's like an air corridor that has been cleared
it's
specific for this activity. So to test.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
To be able to test that, and it's obviously approved by the CAA, the
Civil Aviation Authority.
The Civil Authority, yeah. We also have activity around the what we're calling the conscious aircraft. So this is building on our integrated vehicle health management center, which has been for many years mainly on surface transport systems, to be able to work out when parts need to be replaced on a vehicle. So that what tends to happen with planned maintenance is that you tend to replace parts before they actually need to be replaced so that you don't get a failure. What the conscious aircraft is all about is trying to make sure that the aircraft tells you when a particular part needs to be replaced, so you get the most out of the parts, and you can plan the activity in a more efficient way. So you're getting better costs out of the various parts of the aircraft and being able to program that into the operational activity of an airline.
Lots of cutting edge stuff you are working on. But all of this is in parallel to the, let's say, the regular academic activity, because you run all these postgraduate programs there, these graduate programs. As a Center for Air Transport Management, well, you have obviously all this technical side of things. You also look at the, let's say, the business side and the operational side of the air transport business. Tell us a bit more as well about all these academic side. What sort of programs you guys have over there at Cranfield, and what sort of, let's say, career paths you can also offer to people that are perhaps looking for a career in an airline or an airport, or more generally in the commercial aviation industry?
Okay, well, so what I've just described to you represents the broad activity of the university, particularly on the technical side. My center, the Center for Air Transport Management, is a dozen faculty, which has a sort of focus on being able to take technology and make it commercially valuable. So our focus invariably is, how do airlines and airports make and lose money, and how can we emphasize the commercial activities for both of these key focus, and to be able to do that for the long term. So it's about trying to understand what parts of airlines make and lose money and why, and understand what parts of an airport system, how that works together for operational efficiency and for commercial value. So we tend to be a group of people who are slightly on the periphery of some of the activity of the university, beyond the more technical aspects of the university. And we are economists, we're marketers, we're an architect, we have people who are geographers. So we're a sort of a group of people who try to understand how airlines and airports work and how we can try and make those better, both for the airlines and the airports, but also, of course, for the customers of these airports and airlines. So the cargo operators, the cargo forwarders, and particularly the airline passengers.
Can you give me a few examples of the sort of graduate programs that you run at your center? How does one of these programs look like in terms of duration, the sort of academic credentials that you get, or titles, and then what sort of professional career paths people choose to go on after completing one of those degrees?
Sure. So we have 3 MSc programs. We have the MSc Air Transport Management, we have the MSc Airport Planning and Management, and we have the Executive MSc in Air Transport Management. The Executive MSc in Air Transport Management is a part-time program, which is really aimed at people who are currently working in industry and looking to move to the next level in their career. And the 2 full-time MScs are aimed at people who are looking to move into either their first role in the aviation industry, or maybe to move from a more sort of operational role into a more managerial role. So the full-time courses are both 1 year only. So they start in October and run through until mid-August. And the part-time program, the Exec MSc, runs over 2 or 3 years, depending on how long you take to do your thesis. And that is designed so that people can maintain their current careers while they're studying.
I interrupt you here 1 second. Do these people that are already in the industry in some capacity, do they come to do the courses in person at Cranfield, or you run them on some sort of remote capacity? I guess the exams, they do them in there presentially, but how do you organize all these, let's say, presential versus remote activities, particularly now in the last 2-3 years?
So you're absolutely right. The last 3 years has been a challenge, but also an opportunity. We're currently just completing a redesign of our MSc, Executive MSc, and we are trying to develop it so that it can be done on a fully face-to-face basis, on a hybrid mix of some face-to-face and some online experience, or to offer the sufficient flexibility that you could do it completely online. Part of the experience of Cranfield is coming to Cranfield and being with other students and being with the faculty and being able to talk to each other face to face. And I think that's something that we really don't ever want to lose. But we realize that for some people, being over the last couple of years, being able to get out of their country and to be able to get into the UK hasn't been possible. So we've had to pivot towards a more online experience. And we're trying to take the best of what we've learned over being able to deliver courses online to be able to keep some of that as we move forward. So the new design of the course has in the first year 3 one-week residential courses, which if you can be residential, that's fantastic. If you can't, we can support a hybrid activity. So we've had experiences with teaching some students in the classroom, but some also who are participating on an online basis. And that's been a sort of quite a step up for some of the faculty, particularly the old ones like me, who have to try and work out how cameras work and how we can have projections of the lecture slides both into the classroom and also online, and be able to integrate people asking questions from online and being part of the class, because having people when they're not present in the room still being part of the class is really an important thing. So this redesign, we've got these 3 one-week residentials, and then in the second year we have a mix of some elective modules, which you can again do them online, but you can also come to Cranfield and be participative there. And we've designed a new group project where students who are going to work together over a number of months on a project in their own space, and then bring that back to Cranfield for their final activity before they move on to the individual research program project which they have to do to complete their degree.
Yeah, actually, that's something I wanted to ask you about is how is the evaluation? So from what you told me, there's like a final project. It's like a dissertation thesis or something like that. Or are there also exams that people need to pass to get? So both? Like project and exams, or how does it work?
Well, I'm trying to paint a wonderful picture, but of course there are assessments. We as a university, and I think many UK-based universities have now moved increasingly to embrace the idea that you do not have to have, particularly for higher level degrees, sort of an in-class test. You don't have to sit in this sort of 1 meter square for 3 hours and try and remember everything, because that's not really how the world works. If you have a problem in the real world, you are not isolated, not trying to remember something from a book that you read 10 months ago. So we're increasingly having a mix of individual assessments, which can be done separately, in their own time. I think on the full-time course, we have at least one exam, but I don't think there's more than one exam. And then we have group activities, group projects where people are working together. So we have a bit of a range of different assessments. Of course, the individual research project is individual.
But what sort of project, like, for example, can you give me an example of what could be the topic of a usual
student
student project?
Currently, I'm working with a student who's looking at how important the nationality of an airline might be for customers. So we recognize for Spanish flyers, they like to fly with Iberia because it reminds them of being at home and it has a Spanish feel. But for somebody in the UK, maybe they're not going to fly with Iberia because it's Spanish and they want a more British experience. So we have these legacy airlines that have national feel to them. And then there are other airlines that have developed that seem to be independent of that. And so how important is that nationality thing? That's one. Last year, we had somebody looking at security experiences as you travel through an airport, and can bio recognition be used, and how might that play into the passenger experience as they travel through an airport. We look at different airline business models. We've had in the last couple of years a lot of focus on long haul, low cost, because there's been a lot of activity in that, and particularly the introduction and the development of new narrow body long haul aircraft and what opportunities that provide, and trying to understand why they fail, because you've got airlines like Norwegian that have just sort of partly shot themselves in the foot, and partly just the model doesn't seem to work particularly well. But yet we've got AirAsia X coming back to London this summer. So just trying to understand different parts of a problem. So for every student, we are looking for a hypothesis, a statement that, if you can't tell me what your problem is with a statement that starts, I believe that, then you can get to the point which is, I can test something. I can try and find a solution to a particular problem, even if the answer is what I believe isn't true. But hopefully, if you do your work well, you're designing, you have a problem, it's based on the literature that has gone before. You come up with a research objective. You come up with a methodological approach to dealing with the problem, and it can be a whole bunch of different stuff. It could be very data-driven. It could be survey-based. It could be taking information about the times where aircraft land. I remember a project a couple of years ago where a student took all of the landings for a particular airport over a year, I think, and looked at all of the delays to try and identify problems around turnaround, padding and stuff like that. And then obviously you do your original work and you try and find a solution. So every project is different. Every project is interesting, and we as supervisors are there to try and direct and channel the student towards something that is not too big a problem and is not too small a problem. And then they can get to the point where they write their thesis up. I think of an MSc research project as basically a mini PhD. And of course, we have PhD students at Cranfield, and they're doing much bigger projects. But our challenge is to take in fairly limited period of time to get students to do something useful for their MSc theses.
Yeah, that brings me back memories of my student years, because I did an MSc in economic history at the London School of Economics, LSE, and my thesis was actually about the introduction of the Boeing 707 in the.
Wow! Oh, you're older than you look.
Yeah, I had to dig into lots of
history books,
old record, like parliamentary records and stuff like that, to find out what, like, the figures, like the number of passengers and the revenue they were bringing in. So looking at what the change was in the North Atlantic routes when these
so
very.
You may have been looking at the old JP Fleets and the OAG, sort of the big OAG books.
Well, I was looking like a lot of official documents, because I think at the time BOAC, was the flag carrier in the UK. They published them as part of, I think, the government records, because it was a government, it was basically like an office of the government. And there was lots of information in all records. So it was interesting. It was an interesting project I did for my MSc. That brought me back memories from
hopefully not. Hopefully it didn't bring back too many sweaty thoughts about how horrible doing research is. We like to think it's exciting, but it can be quite a challenge, and particularly if you end up having to sort of go down searching records and for information that isn't particularly easy to find. And again, that's sort of where the faculty can come and help, because they tend to have more experience about where they can find information. And of course, we've got a massive network of former students, alumni around the world, who are often really helpful to our current students, particularly if they've worked in an area which the student is working, trying to do their thesis on. They tend to be able to be quite positive and help them out. So it's a good experience. And that's something I think that Cranfield does really well. We keep very close to our former students, and it just provides a sort of a way that students can move into industry and then move on through their careers and help out current students. So it works very nicely.
Yeah, indeed. I have come across many Cranfield alumni when talking with people in the industry. And also some of them actually have been providing comment for some of the articles when I needed some expert comment about some current topics in the industry. So a good thing, I guess, that helps you guys is that this is an industry where everything is documented. So there's all these huge databases where you have all the like flights and airlines and airframes. Everything has a track record. Everything is leaving some trace wherever it happens. So you need to make sense of all this information and then, I guess,
find a new way.
What sort of major topics or themes are in demand now? I mean, when you see all these people looking for topics for their dissertations or looking for professional advice or topics for a PhD, for example, have you detected some, let's say, macro trends, topics people are kind of leaning towards this at this point in time?
Yeah, so I think it's absolutely a function of where we find ourselves in the industry at the moment, but also the changing demographics and the younger people coming through. It's not surprising that sustainability is increasingly a real focus for our students. And let's be absolutely clear, the people who come on our courses tend to be aviation geeks. And I say that with love and affection. These people have aviation absolutely in their blood, and they want to go and work in the industry, and they want to have an industry to work in. And the biggest single challenge that the industry faces now and over the next 50 and 100 years is sustainability. And the industry has been sort of doubling in size every 15 years for the last 40, 50 years. And there's a question as to whether we'll ever become a mature industry, whether we will ever get to low or zero growth. And I'm not sure that we will. People want to travel. They like to travel. They like to see new places, and that they want to meet with family and friends wherever they are in the world. And what we have seen over the last 25 years is the growth of low-cost carriers and the democratization of aviation. It used to be the preserve of the rich, and now it's the preserve of everybody. And you have very large markets in places like India and China where people have traditionally not traveled very much because of economic situation, and that is changing. People are becoming increasingly middle class all over the world, and we're seeing an incredible increase in demand for aviation in these places where in the past aviation there has been large industries, but not to the sort of level that we find in North America and in Europe. And the demand for a sustainable industry butts up against this demand for growth. And we don't know quite how to square the circle, but increasingly the young people who come through our courses are aviation enthusiasts to the core, but also they want a future for themselves and they want a future for their kids. And so we've got to try and work out how to square that circle. And so there's lots of research about how to try and make air transport as efficient as possible. And, you know, in Europe, we still haven't done the most ridiculously easy thing, which is to have a single airspace, which means that we can increase the throughput of aircraft and we can reduce all of the circling that nobody likes and reduce the unnecessary burning of fossil fuels because we have an inefficient system. And how do we solve that? Well, it's a political problem. It's not a technical problem. It's never been a technical problem. So sustainability is a really big challenge, and you've got sort of people trying to look into sustainable aviation fuels, synthetic aviation fuels. You have activities around for short-haul travel, the move towards either electric or hydrogen aircraft. And you mentioned earlier Cranfield Aerospace Solutions. They're one of our partner. No, they're not a partner. They're part of the Cranfield,
the Cranfield family.
Yeah, and they are a technical solutions company that focuses on how to actually develop and produce systems that work with electric aircraft and hydrogen aircraft. So they've had their first fully electric aircraft movements in last year, the year before, I think it was. And so moving towards sort of more electric and sustainable aircraft solutions. And of course, we've seen more of our students moving into companies like Joby and other sort of air taxi type companies and on-demand aircraft, because there seems to be sort of a split between that long-haul aircraft activity where the solution is only ever going to be synthetic aviation fuels, and so there needs to be a real push along that side. But then in the short-haul market, we're increasingly moving towards sort of last mile or last 10-mile type flights. And, you know, I can see a future where we have on-demand, maybe unmanned aircraft being able to bring people to their final destinations, which would be a crazy sort of Jetson type future that we all thought we would be in today anyway. So sustainability is a massive, massive subject, and it's going to keep our students busy for the next 50 years. The next big thing, I think, is digitalization, being able to take all of, you mentioned all of the sort of data that is available in this industry, and we have tended to silo it. You know, you cannot access all of the data in one go. And when we look at other industries, being able to integrate large data sources and using sort of artificial intelligence to come up with better solutions, the air transport industry is absolutely sort of replete with a opportunity around this thing. And so, for example, one of my PhD students is looking at the digitalization of the commercial activities in an airport. So it's sort of how do we take what we currently have and move to a more efficient, to a better system for customers and a better solution for the airports and their partner companies. So those are sort of two big challenges, I think. Digitalization will affect operations, absolutely. I think digitalization will affect the commercial activities of airlines and airports, absolutely. And I think as customers, we want better solutions. I was shopping for a flight yesterday, and it's still a dreadful experience. And it's just not as good as it could be compared to shopping for just about anything else that you may shop online. We haven't got to the point where buying an airline ticket and using an airline ticket is as good a customer experience as pretty much any other industry. And it should be. We could make it better, but we have to move beyond those legacy systems that we have and the siloed solutions that we currently have. So those are the two big challenges, and I guess sort of new aircraft systems and the airline business models that use them. So I think we've moved over the last 25 years to a separation from full service carriers only to a mix of full service carriers and low cost carriers in short haul regional services. And I think we're due for another evolution over the next couple of years as we embrace new aircraft technology and we look at different ways how airlines can organize themselves together. So, for example, JetBlue flying into the UK and having low-cost carrier partners. We're reinventing that sort of network model in a different way.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's definitely something that's pretty much on trend, and you get all this more diverse landscape. Also, in terms of business models, because you also see even linkages with some segments of industry like executive jets, for example, and low-cost airlines and full-service carriers, and everything is more intertwined. And now you've got even now new technical solutions, things like all these ground effect vehicles now in the US, some airlines investing in this kind of mix between boat and airplane and ships and airships as well. We've got this week some news in like the comeback of the airship, which is going to be quite amazing thing to see, and eVTOLs and all sorts of different flying and moving things that are more integrated through technology. So yeah, definitely lots of things going on, and I'm sure you guys are going to be like in the first row to propose technical solutions and to analyze what's happening for people that wish to enroll in one of your graduate programs. What would be the things to do? What are the requirements and what is the process like?
Okay, so if I focus on the full-time MSCs that we have, we are looking first and foremost for people who have a demonstrable interest in the aviation industry, because you could come and study with us across a whole bunch of different roles, but the people who don't have aviation in their soul are never going to embrace it in the way that we think that our students should and would and will. So that, being able to do that, so the personal statement is always very important. In terms of academic first degrees, we have a lot of students who are coming with technical degrees, so aero engineering, civil engineering, and those sort of courses. We have quite a lot of students coming from some of the aviation universities that tend principally to focus on the technical side. So ENAC in France and some of the I can't think of in Spain.
Well,
is SICA and SICA.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. There's different faculties that have this aerospace engineering
type degrees, and then people coming from business degrees, management, and looking to apply those into the industry. So they want to go on into sort of managerial roles in the airline industry. And so, as I said earlier, sort of economics and geography and other sort of more social sciences type backgrounds, psychology, for example. And so our student body, is incredibly international. We have people from all over the world. We have students who have different academic backgrounds and who, when they are put together, have to learn each other's skills and what each are better. And our group project is a great example where, some people work on the more technical or operational type activities, and some on the more social sciences type activities. So that sort of background. The application process runs all year. So we tend to close applications sort of July time, I think. But we take applications all the way through the year, and if you're too late for this year, we'll move your application forward to next year. It's an all online system, so if people want to talk to us, you can find our contact details off of the Cranfield website and contact us if they want to get some more information and talk to somebody about what the degree entails and what sort of roles that they might go on to. And I think one of the things that you wanted to talk about is what sort of career paths to people have, and maybe we can move on to that in a second.
Cranfield.ac.uk.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Cranfield.ac.uk, and then search for air transport management and you'll find us.
Yes.
So then in terms of our graduates, they tend to move into sort of one of sort of 5 different roles, I think. They may go into the commercial parts of airlines and airports. So a sort of a standard or a fairly common role that people move into in the airline industry tends to be revenue management. It's a great first role in the industry. It helps you to understand markets and sort of the demand elasticity and price elasticity of customers very well.
And so essential for airlines as well.
Absolutely. It's the absolute core of what airlines do in terms of the commercial side. And then after 2-3 years, people tend to move on. So commercial is one, and then operational. So working for an airport to try and improve the throughput of the systems, the throughput of the passengers, improve the ramp efficiency, the gate allocation, all of those sort of more operational activities in airports and in for airlines in the sort of operational aspects of the operations of an airline. We have people go on to consultancies. So there is 3 or 4 very large airport consultancies and a number of airline consultancies, which are either, some of them are very big and some of them are quite small and boutique. What all of these jobs are looking for are people that really understand the airline industry. And I think, if you have a MBA degree and try and go and work in an airline or an airport, you don't understand the intricacies and the complexities of the airline industry. And this is particularly true for consultancies. Being able to understand these activities really helps those specialist consultancies, not the McKinseys of this world, but the more boutique type consultancies to really get to the heart of any issue in an airport, in an airline, because they understand the complexities of it. Some of our graduates go on to work for regulators and civil aviation authorities, and quite a few go on to work for OEMs. And I mentioned Joby, for example, earlier. We have a lot of people go to Boeing and Airbus, and particularly into technical sales and marketing for those sort of organizations.
Yeah, all right. So, quite a broad spectrum of career paths open for people that complete one of your programs that I'm sure are going to be of interest to the people listening to this podcast, because I'm assuming they are interested in aviation just as we are. I hope so.
I hope so too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Keith, for all this overview of the amazing job you guys do there at Cranfield.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk to you.
Yeah. And I'll definitely put links on the show notes so that people can dig deeper into each of these different things we discuss, DARTech, your different programs, and more generally, the background of Cranfield University and why you guys are so unique in this context of aviation education for both technical and business. So again, thank you very much for your time today. And
that's brilliant, Miguel. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. What I should do one little advert at the end here.
Go for it.
If anybody listening has sort of any sort of research challenges that they're having and they want some additional expert support, we're available. And, if anybody has interest in any of the courses that we offer, please come and give me a shout and I can put you in the direction of the right person to talk to. You can find me very easily at k.mason@cranfield.ac.uk. So please just give me a shout. I'll try and get back to you quickly as I can.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
It's a real pleasure, Miguel. Thank you for your time.
Likewise. Bye. Before you go, and if you like this podcast, a quick reminder that it would be absolutely great if you could please give it a rating on Apple, Spotify, or whichever platform you're using, or recommend it to a friend or whomever might be interested. Thank you very much and see you soon.